Hello and welcome, everybody. This is the Open Bar. I am your host, Steve Straza, Chief Market Strategist here at All Star Charts. How about this volatility? Everybody doing okay? I'm going to get set up so I could check the chat. Spencer, if you just want to give me a second, we'll drill in here. Drill in and get tactical today because I think we need to. Ooh, look at that. That's a big level. No, it's a big level. What up, chat? How you guys feeling today? Long, short, bullish, bearish? How are we feeling? There we go. Okay. What's up, Bill, Quentin, Saucy, V? Yeah, TLT, right? How about the TLT? That's bonds. Not many things looking this good out here these days. How about the bonds? Check this out. Kind of like the yellow. You guys like the yellow? That's new. I don't know. These guys are messing around with my formats, but I like it. Nice little base. This is bonds. I think bonds are good. We got a double position, at least a double position. I got a lot more than a double position in bonds. I like different vehicles. I think TMF gives you some good liquid leverage. Same trade really as TLT, just leveraged long. I think the zeros are among my favorite bond funds right now. These are zero coupon bonds. They have a higher degree of beta than almost anything in terms of treasuries. I think you got to be a little careful with the high yield stuff out here right now, at least for right now. That needs to settle. That to me, along with dollar, biggest risk that I see when I look at the market. I say, yikes, don't like that action. From high yield, from credit spreads, from a lot of stocks that touch high yield, private credit, subprime lending. You see it, I don't know if it's trickling over or if it's just a similar story, right, for a different industry, but something like, well, here's high yield. Here's high yield. It fell off a cliff over the short term, right? That's big volatility. That's not nothing burger action, guys, by the way. Momentum got oversold quickly, coming off of new cycle highs. Here's a short-term momentum indicator. It's like a one-day rate of change. Showing bigger reading than we've really seen since the tariff spat back in April. If you look at it on a weekly, doesn't show up as much, right? But still, you got to go back to April. And if you look at credit spreads, which a crude way to measure credit spreads on any charting platform really is the HYGIEI. Right? That's just a ratio of high yield bonds to treasury bonds. New lows, lowest level since May. Not good. That's a weekly. Right? Zoom into the daily. Not looking great. Not looking great there. Right? HYGIEI, getting some momentum to the downside there. Flip this to like a 5-day. It'll give you a more reliable short-term reading, right? You want to see that kind of momentum if you're getting a signal from it really show up across different time frames. You want to see on the 1 day, the 2 day, 3 day, sure, but you want to see it really at least go to 5 days. They say 1 day doesn't make a trend, and that's true, but it can give a pretty damn good signal. These one like big, like, just plunge days or like these big bloodbath days, we see them every now and then. All it tells you is that the character of the market is changing. During like the best up legs within the context of bull markets, right? Or within the context of primary uptrends. Because remember, we have corrective waves during primary uptrends all the time, right? We go through these corrective periods. Again, just zoom out on the HYGII. But during up legs in bull markets, right, which are the best environments to press the gas, take risk, make money on the long side, you don't have these nasty 3.5% down days in the NASDAQ. That doesn't happen during those brief periods, which could last weeks, months, whatever, right? Back in 2020, who remembers the way ARK was rallying, right? So during those moments, you don't have action like this. So if anything, what does a day like the one we had last week, Friday, tell us? So just watch yourself a little bit, maybe reduce a little bit, let the dust settle. Things are changing here in the near term. Does it mean the bull market's over? Does it mean this is the end of the primary? No, no. That's how the end could begin with a day like Friday, right? That's how really bad things start sometimes. But that's not where we have to be going. We got to monitor it. We got to monitor it. But you want to pay more attention, manage your risk a little bit tighter. You want to be less creative. You want to stop jumping entries and stuff. I think chop for the rest of the year could make a lot of sense. I thought we were going to get the melt up. I don't know now. I don't know now. Markets could dig in, rip it higher, right? Repair this damage. We'll see. We'll see. Back to the high yield real quick. This is what I call the Hercules indicator. A lot of these stocks that dabble in the private credit markets, private lending, subprime, like I said, that's where the weakness was first. So I'm so focused on these groups right now. And why? Well, just check out the Hercules indicator. I'm gonna overlay Hercules Capital, which is private credit company, I guess, with the high yield HYG IEI. Mhm. Uncanny resemblance. The blue line is credit spreads. The black line is this little stock that you probably never heard of, Hercules Capital. That's why I'm looking at it, right? And based on this, it's a really tight relationship. Hercules is plunging almost to its lows from April, right? That would be considerable amount of added downside. Log those scales for high yield credit spreads to catch lower, right? And if that is happening, right, and this ends up being a top here in credit spreads, and this is plunging lower, I'll tell you, if you're super exposed on the long side, your account's going to get hit good again. More action like Fridays, right? So I want to see this little scoop here, uh, repair and boogie higher. I want to see stocks like Hercules or Blue Owl Capital or just financials in general. You don't want to see that selling spill over into the broader financial sector. Here's Blue Owl Capital, is another one. Even like something like KKR, Blackstone. I don't think you want this is Blackstone. Uh, this to be a top in PSP, which is what it's looking like. So I'm watching this area, and again, housing super weak too. So I think you can watch the builders and like stuff like Rocket Mortgage. Also, this has to improve, I think. And one way it could happen this week is all the big banks are out, right? And I'm sure they're going to be fielding questions about this situation. I find it hard to believe that like some little auto parts company going under causes this big of a problem for these companies. If it does, then what the hell are those companies doing wrong? Isn't that the business they're in? They can't take a loss. Um, what is it like? First Auto? What I don't know. Whatever it was that sparked a lot of this you're hearing about. So anyway, J.P. Morgan. How about dig in and react higher on the heels of what was a pretty nice earnings beat? Citigroup is. Oh, it was. Wells Fargo looking solid, about 3.5%. So maybe the banks, right? Because they're going to report more and more in the coming days, and then regionals. Maybe they can come out and maybe stop the bleeding a little bit in the financial sector, in the private credit stocks. I think that would help stabilize things. But watch the high yield. Watch the high yield, and watch XLF more broadly. I was, looking to buy some downside exposure, get long some puts. I'm long calls in what 3 of the big banks, I guess. Um, so I bought some XLF puts last week. Friday was wild for me. I was in the car driving through the Everglades, then driving through the Florida Keys. I hate doing that. Uh, 30, 40 alerts going off to the downside, trying to book trades. And I got my MacBook out, losing service. I'm like, Jesus Christ, never again. But you learn as you go. Like for me, that was a wake up call. In the past, I've been able to kind of leave my desk, especially in situations like that. I'm literally sitting in the passenger seat working. Um, so like try to be prepared for a moment like this, right? But over the years, I've been okay trading from mobile. If something goes on, I'll get my alerts. I'll go. I don't have to step out from what I'm doing for 5-10 minutes. Go make some trades from my mobile. It's really been no problem. But what ends up happening is your trading and investing evolves, your account grows, you start doing more complicated, more complex things, you have more positions, more size. It matters. These numbers for us as traders can get very, very material, significant to our lives. So I realized Friday, I said to Rose, I said, look, I learned a lesson today. I can't leave the desk anymore until this bull market's over. I said, don't worry. We'll go to Hawaii when it's done. But for now, no more of that. Not doing that again. We'll have to drive Friday night or Saturday morning. But that just happens. And it's not like I made a mistake per se to leave my desk. That's how you learn, right? It's like, oh, okay, this was okay in the past and worked for me. But now I really need to be in front of my screens, all my screens in my office, right? Like in a environment that's conducive to doing the right thing and kind of managing your account. So I just learned. I said, well, yeah, we're gonna have to maybe stop traveling during market hours. But you learn as you go, right? You gotta listen to the feedback from your account, from the market, yada yada yada. Okay, enough with me. So if we're getting short, if we wanted to buy puts, short exposure, what does that look like? This is more of a, I'm not making a market call. We'll talk more about how I want to be positioned, what I'm actually doing, right? On Thursday's call. This is more about like, if you've decided that you want more short exposure, you have too much long exposure, if you want to hedge your portfolio, how would we do that, right? Think of this more as an exercise. I'm not making a market call. Let's talk about how we would go about doing that. And before we do, I'm going to tell you some very big signals that I'm watching besides high yield. That's a huge one right now. And really the price action in banks. See this? This has to hold here. This is regional banks relative to the broader market. Um, and then financials more broadly on a relative basis, like stop. I think this has to stop. Financials have been garbage at the index level since late April. We need them to at least stop falling on a relative basis and definitely stop falling on an absolute basis. I don't like that weakness from the financials. Another thing I think is just critical right now is here's the story. Here's the Canadian dollar. Like, who cares about the Canadian dollar? Maybe we should. Maybe we should. So, is this the top in the Canadian dollar? Looks like it to me. If that is a top, what does it say for the dollar index? Well, you saw CAD. There's not much there. CAD futures. Right. So maybe the CAD's not that important. It's really not that large of a weighting in the dollar index. Okay. Well, what do the other ones look like? The large weightings in the dollar index. Well, here's the yen. And the yen's been terrible for like so long. Is that a top in the yen? What does that mean for the dollar index? That's a pretty big weighting, right? Oh, wrong one. And then how about the British pound? Not a top yet. Close though. And the euro. JC was like, what top? And he's right. This one looks the least like a top for sure. I don't even know how I would draw it, right? But if that euro starts looking more like the other ones and the pound completes a top and looks more like the Canadian dollar here, then the dollar index, DXY, is going to be moving higher coming out of this tactical base. How much higher is the question? And then what do risk assets do in that environment? Because remember, it's a pretty strong inverse relationship here between stocks and the US dollars. This is the S&P 500 in blue. I'm going to flip it around. Okay, so now I got the S&P 500 upside down with the US dollar. Does that relationship dislocate? Because right now it would suggest this is dollar, right? Really ramped off of the mid-September low. Stocks haven't done much at all, right? Like, don't you get a big move up in this line to catch up? And well, that actually means down. Let's flip it back around. It would actually look more like this on the S&P 500. Let's talk about some downside levels. if we're going to be so crazy to come out here. And I think, look, I think you got to look out for them to dig in here and rip higher. Some of the stuff I'm seeing in crypto is like, yeah, this sucks. It's messy, but is this really going to break? If it breaks, get out, right? Don't get cute. The bull market could end right now. It wouldn't surprise me. That we could have already seen the top. It's not the bet I'm making. I don't think it's a higher probability outcome. Totally a possibility. It wouldn't shock any of us. It shouldn't. It's been really good. Look at some of the action lately. And these rare earth metal stocks, quantum stocks, drone companies with zero revenues. It's crazy. I think it gets crazier, but it's already like, whew. We would look back and say, yeah, that was pretty euphoric. What they did to the quantum stocks is pretty crazy. Bitcoin miners absolutely blowing off right now. By the way, Bitcoin, spot markets, Bitcoin miners are not much different from gold miners or other commodity stocks that are linked directly to the price of some sort of an underlying, right? Some sort of a spot market, typically, right? Bitcoin miners, the same as Freeport McMoran, or maybe that's not the best example. Newmont Mining, right, is levered to gold. So eventually, if Bitcoin miners are literally doing this, like, holy cow, these become the best stocks in the market. Quantum who? You've seen what some of these Bitcoin miners are doing? Price of Bitcoin, meanwhile, straight line higher since, let's just say since early September, straight line higher. This is the Bitcoin, coin shares, Bitcoin mining ETF. You can actually buy this. It's a big universe of stocks too. I'm not against playing it through a basket. I own like 15 of them. It's a pain in the ass. Let's look at what Bitcoin's done since early September. This was early September. Tried. Now it's right back where it was, right? So if you overlaid these two charts, the WGMI, and let's just use IBIT. What's going on here? Who's right here, right? A lot of overlay charts for you guys today. A lot of volatility in the miners. So Bitcoin's got some catching up to do, I would think. If it breaks, I think look out below. These profits that have been made in these Bitcoin miner trades, I think, are quite vulnerable. Okay. All right. So why am I not too worried about crypto here? Holding where it needs to. Nothing's broken. It's just sloppy, right? We didn't get an upside resolution. That doesn't mean you're getting a downside one. Could just be a false start. Doesn't have to be some sort of nasty failed breakout and then we plunge lower. That could have been the plunge. That was pretty nasty. They dug in, they bought them up Sunday night into yesterday, and then another down day. But holding, see the VWAP, it's held a million times. June, again in August, again in September, right? It's holding again. Ethereum. Can't freak out on Ethereum. Look at this thing, right? It's trying to come out of a base. It's a monster base, by the way. Its base has been in place since March of 2024. Breakout doesn't have to happen overnight, right? There's a lot of overhead supply there. Ethereum could just be working through, doing this thing. You drop any VWAPs here, Ethereum's not broken at all. You drop it from the June low. Look at that, right? If you want a level to say, that's too much below there, right? These VWAP levels, really, that's what I use to either increase or decrease exposure, protect myself, etc. And then look at Solana. Solana's got to go, though. I mean, geez, what a dog it's been. We made money. We've done well, but expecting still a lot more from Solana. Big, a bunch of VWAPs here. They're all holding, right? Is the bottom line. And then if you want to, right? So we say, okay, this morning on the morning show, I said, whatever direction this market goes in right now, over the short term, you could probably go with it. You might want to go with it lighter, right? Because there is that risk of chop now back in the other direction, right? This week could be entering one of these like false starty, real frustrating, messy market environments, I think. But you get a big green candle, some big reversals. If they buy these up, right, you get some big lower shadows, right? Lower candles, lower candlesticks, spindles. Towards the end of the day, I think you lean long. You go with it. You got to keep seeing progress. But this could be a good entry if this dip is going to get bought up aggressively, like we've seen many times before, just during this cycle. So some big VWAP levels there now. Okay, if the market's going to roll, what's it going to look like? What are we going to do? Here's a daily chart. You could see it right here, but let's drill in. Let's use like a 15-minute. Um, you know what? I got better charts. Here you go, Spencer. Boom. Okay. No, it's not letting me. Does this work, Spencer? No. All right. Okay, bummer. We'll keep it with trading view. Flip it to the 15-minute. You got the VWAP coming in that we've already shown. Just litter VWAPs. Got some kilos. There you go. I think if we're above that August VWAP, everything's okay. If that breaks, right, you want to add some downside exposure here, buy some puts. I think that's smart, right? But I think the higher probability outcome for now is we've established a monster range here. And this could be really choppy over the short to intermediate term, right? What, so 653 to the downside, 673 to the upside, 20-point range. We could be doing this every day, right? So until you really clear either the upper or the lower bounds at the index level, could be choppy here. Now, you could use other things, right? Other indexes to kind of give you a heads up of where things are likely going. Problem right now is the normal leaders, the NASDAQ, are just as weak, if not weaker, right? So let's look at the same picture with the NASDAQ. That's a big arrow. Start dropping some VWAPs here. This is the September low. That looks pretty good to me, right? So that's got to hold. Now, if you get some nasty reversal here on the NASDAQ intraday, right, and you want to jump a short instead of getting short, I was telling JC on the morning show, like you could use the lows of yesterday, right, to initiate shorts. You could use the lows from today. If you want to get real tactical, if you want to get real freaky about it. Oops. All right, the low from yesterday is basically the low from today in the SPY. That's pretty clean. I really like that. If you want to get more tactical, we're starting to fill the gap, right? Let's see. All right, so let them go. Let's drill into the 5-minute. Right? Can we fill this gap? Massive gap. Try and trade that today to the upside. Now, the market rolls, we get some sort of volatility. They come in, they start selling it this afternoon, which, be cautious, be ready for. I don't think it would surprise anybody. Do this. Drop a VWAP from the low of the day and use that to guide you, right? 1 minute. Look at this. Boom. You could also drop one from the opening candle today. It's going to come in right around the same place. Right, but that's it. So 655-ish. If you want to jump it, then you get confirmation at the lows today, and then you get even more confirmation at the lows from yesterday. There you go. Right? There's a little roadmap. I'll also tell you, it's a lot easier for options traders to just dabble with index puts. You could try to, pick the right stocks, pick the ones that are going to plunge the most. I think that game is so much harder than trying to pick winners on the long side because we're looking for like quick hits on the short side. So sometimes it's just simpler. You get the liquidity, you go with some SPY puts. Maybe you could find something leverage. You could also buy they have vehicles like I know the SDS is I guess fairly popular, but there's a lot of drag on that. I think you could trade if you're really short term enough. You could trade VIX calls or some of the VIX products, right? You could do different things, but what I tend not to do is like in moments like this when I'm trying to hedge, I'm trying to just add a little downside exposure. I keep it really simple. I'm not going like finding some spicy shorts. If I wanted to, right, I would tell you, we'll sprinkle a couple on something like Square. Looks really interesting. So we have a list, right? But most of my shorting is done at the index level. Now, some stuff that is on our short list right now, I'll just tell you. Square. I mean, this thing looks so ready to plunge lower. The action in its space has not been good. Did you see what PayPal's done recently? Right. So you got a little setup here on the Square. It's still in a big multi-year range. Here's PayPal. I mean, this thing is just such a bad stock. It's such a dog. Fundamental people love this story. It makes no sense. You could tell who's looking at charts and who's not. So PayPal right here, I mean, really, you could have shorted it yesterday. The way to jump PayPal, I think, would be just real tactical. You could have used the VWAP like that, or even the VWAP from the range low here, right? That gets you in on yesterday's candle. That's one that we almost put on. It's another one. Let me check. I got a nice little list here. This is an interesting short idea, the Airbnb, but it's digging in today, right? So that could also be an interesting long idea if the market were to turn. And that's the case with a lot of these. We were looking around financials for ideas. This one, you know, came up on a couple of our scans. You got a nice coil there. That's Progressive Insurance. So there's different stuff you could do. And then things that we're watching on the long side, I'll give you a one. If crypto dips it and rips it here, really impressive. Look, the Bitcoin miners have been impressive for months now, but with the weakness in Bitcoin, particularly today, the way these Bitcoin miners are holding up is just, I think it's pretty wild, and I think it tells a story too. Look at something like Mara. If you're not already in it, we have a position on this already. Looks great right here. Bang, Mara looks like it's got 30 written all over it. It's 50%. So that's interesting, right? Again, Bitcoin digs in, holds. I think the Bitcoin miners just continue to erupt. Bitcoin rolls, look out, protect yourself because they're going to roll too. Eventually, huge level for Bitcoin. If it digs in, like I said, if you got a green candle come the end of today, look out. So BTBT is one that we're watching. We're already long a number of other Bitcoin miners, but this thing just looks ready to pop. It's a very similar setup to, like I said, the Mara. We'll look at the Coinbase quick and the MicroStrategy because I know we've been trading those a lot. You got this little tactical coil and Coinbase. It's been trying to move higher all day. So here's a level for Coinbase. Boom, holding where it needs to for now. Sucks, right? Giving a lot of gains up in our short dated calls. And then MicroStrategy's have just been terrible, but holding those pivot lows from last week, right? So again, you see some green shoots here. There's a squeeze indicator. This is what I want though. Nope, I'm sorry. Momentum, right? Not getting oversold. A lot of these things, despite all the volatility. So that really stands out, right? Still in the bullish momentum regime. So MicroStrategy digs in. I mean, that's a viable option too. I would expect it to look more like Mara and some of these, other Bitcoin miners that are directly leveraged to the price of Bitcoin. Guys, this was lovely. 30 minutes. I'm going to check the chat. I didn't check the chat very, very well because I just had a lot to say today. I would like to keep it more interactive. Markets doing some good stuff here just since we've been talking. So it looks like we're going to try to fill this gap today. Let's see what it's got. Let's see what it's got. Let's also see like the character of the tape today. I thought it was a little bit too speculative. Yesterday, I want to see it broaden out a bit today. I want to see stuff like AMD dig in and pop again, Microsoft and Apple, right? I want to see those Mag 7s and the big tech trade get back on track, not just quantum stocks and Bitcoin miners. So we'll see. I think you have a playbook here over the short term, both directions. You got some pretty clean levels, but then you also have some pretty wide ranges now, right, over the short term that we got to deal with. So let's say I think, we joked on the morning show today. We always say this, but I said, I think it's going to be a big day. We're going to learn a lot today. We're going to learn a lot in the coming days. We always say that. But it's true. It's true. Here's the chat. Yo, Soul, what's up? Sir Nudes, what's up? Short piece on how to set up a view. Here's how you set up a VWAP, man. Look, it's right here. Boom. You just hit this sidebar, anchored VWAP. You click it, and then you stick it wherever you want. That's it. It's easy. They have like forums and stuff too. You can learn that stuff. It's not for this. Mag's nothing until earn. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. The earnings are going to be great. Same with JP Morgan. Like, how much do earnings really matter? They're going to be great. The earnings are going to be really good. Does the market keep rewarding them for a really good report? Oh. Uh, does a sideways market? No. They'll still try and chase, but like I said, if the market's sideways, that would mean that they're chasing and the buying from their chase isn't enough, right? Supply, demand. So they could be chasing out there, but others are selling. So you might not get that big chase effect that we've seen in recent years. Yeah, I bought cat puts last week. That's what I do. I just buy like large liquid puts and index puts. I bought like cat puts, apple puts, and the cat one's just terrible. It's just terrible. Better off just buying index puts. I bought VIX puts. It's whatever. Uh, I was using Adobe's AI for the past couple of days. I'm going to go use it more right now, going through like bank statements and stuff, doing my taxes. I thought it was pretty cool. Then again, we pay that. I think we pay Adobe a good amount for that. So, but I was like, wow, this is great. Adobe's. I was literally thinking to myself, question in the chat from Billy. I'm like, why is like, what's the story with Adobe? I was gonna ask, but you know, our tech guys tell us it's the Photoshop stuff. I guess stock looks terrible. I think the product's still pretty good. What do I know? What do I know? It's not about me. Sound. What about it, Yosel? Sound Hound. Yeah, I got some calls. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The Dave. Haven't heard about the Dave in a while. Ooh, Dave's looking good. I'll bet this is coiled. I bet we got a nice coil here. Hey, how about that coil? Ooh, look at the squeeze indicator on the Dave. And I mean, this squeeze indicator, if you got in when it was curling higher in the past, let's look at some of these pops, right? So, squeeze indicator tells you volatility is turning here. It tells you volatility is turning and maybe about to spike again here. And you're seeing that same situation right here today, really over here, right? Volatility bottomed out and started to turn like right here, right? So, man, if it's not going down and breaking that top, we've seen this pattern, by the way, over and over and over again, just this cycle with the Dave. Let's just focus on this cycle, right? Um, Big long-term consolidation. Some people were definitely calling this a top, right? Back in 2024, was it a top? Nope. Dave soared from the 30s to the hundreds. And then what did it do? It went into another little holding pattern again, right? Straight sideways. Again, now this time from November of 2024 to really April of 25, straight sideways. I'm sure lots of people were looking at this and calling it a top, right? It was not a top. They've soared again from now, this time the 70s or 80s to 280 at the highs earlier this year. And now you zoom in and you look at the Dave again, and gosh, history may not repeat itself, but sure does rhyme. And these patterns just look so similar over time. So look at Dave again. Probably not a top, right? The squeeze indicator telling us, and look out. And even if you look at something on this, like the weekly, yeah, you could see it there too, right? Volatility just gets tight in this and then it explodes just time and time again. Tight explodes, tight explodes. It's tight again. All right. So if we see that crossover start to confirm on the weekly, I think look out. And another, how to enter a pattern like this, right? Use the VWAP. Try to use the VWAP, right? So nope, nope. Okay, you get you in here, right? So you got to hold on for a while. This took a couple months, but eventually you get a massive move. Now, if you do it again here, right, drop the VWAP from the range high. That's going to work pretty good on this one, right? So it gets you in really the exact right time. It gets you in at 90. You run up, you get a quick double in this. That's a great trade. So if you do that again, you drop the VWAP from the high. You had a couple false starts here, it looks like. Yeah, say false start, get chopped. False start, you get chopped. But look, goes again. Drop another VWAP, even more zoomed in, like that, right? It's going to be right on top of each other, right? But if this little coil starts to go in the Dave, I mean, it's a really nice setup. It's a really nice setup. Yeah, Rocket Lab, Yosel. Yeah, Rocket Lab's good. We got the Rocket Lab. All of these space stocks just so hot. Rocket Lab, Planet Labs, ASTS. I'm wondering like when's the saddle logic thing gonna work? This thing's been frustrating, but this is one of just the biggest freaking coils out there. I think we talked about it last week. We don't have to talk about it again. There's your squeeze indicator. I'm trying to get through this chat and catch up. I know everybody wants to get out of here. VWAP, watching UVXY. VWAP, I'm out. Nice. Look, you can get chopped around. So you have to be ready. Like a VWAP works good, but it's not magic, right? So it can like shake above it, shake below it, and you gotta sit there and kind of understand what you're doing, have like a final out level, give it a cushion, right? But you might have to go in, out, in, out. It could be tough. right? So you can't do it with like a ton of positions. Day like today, that's what I'm saying. Just a big position like index puts is like what I'll do. If it is going down that way, I can be tactical about it, in and out, close it in and out if I need to. But it's not easy. You really have to be sitting at your desk to do a lot of the stuff that we talk about on this show. Carson, Carson's, yeah. Don't convince yourself too strongly in any which direction about the future. That's one thing, real traders learn over time. It's okay to have a strong opinion. They say strong opinions loosely held, right? So, people always come on the show making calls. I've convinced myself we chop sideways and theta wins through year end. Okay, yeah, he's talking about like theta decay. That would be a tough environment for, directional traders, people like myself, for sure. That'd be terrible. But you don't want to have any view of the future that's too strong that you like hanging on to. If it starts to not go that way, you're going to change your mind. So I come on here, and a lot of times I'll say, yeah, I think this is going to happen. But I never really say anything like too strongly. Because one thing I know for a fact is that the market is designed to fool the majority. It's out here trying to fool all of us every day, right? So whenever it seems so obvious that one thing is going to happen, it's almost always a great signal that that thing ain't going to happen because the market is not obvious, right? So to try and figure it out and play that game and have this like big view of the future, what you do is you spend time and energy building that view and thinking out that view that makes you more likely to cling to it when it's wrong. Does that make sense? There's a psychological mind fuck there where fundamental analysts deal with this too, where if you do all the work, right, to build out this big macro thesis or macro view, yeah, we're going to chop through year end, then like you wasted time and energy and you did work on that and you did all this analysis on that. And what happens is psychologically and subconsciously too, a lot of times you cling harder to that view and to that opinion, even when it's moving against you and the market's like, hey, dude, you're wrong. But you did work. You worked hard building that view. You told all your friends. You wrote a note about it, right? So I don't try and play that game. Yeah, I think this will happen. I think we're going to melt up. I think the market's going to continue to be super strong. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to act accordingly, right? I'm going to come on here and be like, yeah, that didn't happen. Not surprised. I'm wrong all the time. So don't, strong opinions loosely held. Market's going to do what the market's going to do. You have no say over it. It's not about you. It's got nothing to do with you. You just take what the market gives you, right, and protect yourself along the way. That's all. Ride the waves, baby. Thymera, hi. Canadian. Some Canadians in the chat. It's awesome. We love Canadians. We were just in Toronto. Does the bull market have to be over? We could pull back 10% and rip. Sure. Right. People are going to lose their shit. We pull back 10%. Great reset. We could also pull back 10% and then plunge another 10. We'll talk about it when we get there, right? Like that's not happening today. In fact, what's happening today, I came on here like, hey, everybody, let's outline how to short, right? If we plunge, we went down to a key level, like the break level, I think 653, touched it, tested it, and said, and now we're trying to flip it green, right? Maybe we should have been outlining how to buy the dip and where to get back in on the long side. Well, you want to know how to do that real quick? And I got to get out of here and actually do some of this. Drop some VWAPs from the highs, from the range highs. I don't care where. I'm coming around the same place. There you go. Right? As those levels start to, I like this one here, right? The highs of yesterday. The highs of yesterday, 665. That sounds right. That looks right to me. Right there. With this. But look, just since we've been on here, filling that gap. The buyers are back. I got to go check out the tape, see what's working. And I can tell you real quick if it looks a little bit better than yesterday. I'll tell you. Let me just take a quick peek at the tape here. I didn't get to see much of this yet. Yeah, see, not great. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? Consumer staples are leading. Defensives? That's what I'm seeing. Consumer defensive leading the way. Is that right? I don't know. So you want to see that kind of stuff change, and it will, right? If we go red to green, sure, staples were leading. It was a down day when we opened today, but staples still leading right now. You want to see that flip, right? And some of the riskier stuff. I want to see tech, or financials, industrials lead, discretionary. So for now, it's staples. We'll see. We'll see what happens here. Okay, back to the chat. Minor, strong, XRP getting crushed. I know. I'm along the can. I got calls. I got comment. I got a huge position on the Canan. I don't really talk about that one because I think it's super sketchy. It should probably be below most people's line. But yeah, I love it. I love it. That thing's going higher. It's a freight train. I haven't taken a dime of profits yet. Let it ride. That thing's a freak. I think my calls are not till like don't expire till like January though. You never know, guys. Look through the options chain. Sometimes something's there, sometimes it's not. We talked about EL last week. It popped and flopped, right? Popped and flopped. It started to work. See, it's a false starting market, right? So this is why we sell doubles, by the way, guys. I put this trade on last week after we talked about it. This is why you sell doubles, because you sell the double and something like that, and then it, immediately rips backwards against you, and that ends up being a failed breakout. Well, you're protected. And then whatever happens next happens next. That's why we sell doubles. Stuff like this, right? Boom, quick hit, got it, protecting myself. Cool. And you don't care. So yeah, that was cool. Whoever brought the EL to the chat last week, thank you. SMR is one of the best looking stocks out here right now. Super freaking long this. Like just sprayed. The options changed. Just like just buy them all, right? What's up, Philip? Guy Go TV. Nice, nice, nice. 597s. Okay. I see you. Straza for president? Hell no. Never. No, that's funny. Hate politics. Patient. Try and be patient. Love that. What's up to the Alfonso? Fonz is going to be here live in office, hanging out. What, a week, 2 weeks? Can't wait. Can't wait. Fonz is going to be in town. We're going to have that happy hour. It's coming. I can get through my taxes. My dad's going to kill me. The happy hour stuff is coming. It's the next thing we're going to figure out. We've been very busy. Great example of what you get. Carson out here. Look. He's doing the sale for me. I'm not on here to sell. If you want to find out more about my trading, more about the tactical stuff I'm doing, it's with the Breakout Multiplier. Members know, but we're on here talking about stuff. It's an open bar. Come bring your questions. Come bring your ticker requests. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what you're seeing. And we'll just talk through it together. That's what this show is for, because I love it. We used to do like chart requests live charting stuff, and I don't do that anymore. But I really enjoy this kind of stuff. I really love the chat. I love the feedback. I love how it's interactive. I like ALB over a long time frame too, A-Bomb. Yeah, man. Totally. So this is the trader type strategy and blending of trend and hit. No, no, I don't know. Like, I love what Kenny does. He uses VWAPs, so our stuff is similar in that way, where we're usually entering based on VWAPs, but he's in and out during the day. What I'm doing, I'm leaning into the primary trend in most cases, or betting on some mean reversion in like a broadening market, and then we're doing it over days to weeks to months. The time frame is very different. I don't know what trend is. All right, this is awesome. No, I see your chats now, Kevin Keo. I see it now. I think I see most of your guys' messages. This was awesome. Thank you guys. We went, like 45 minutes, so this was a blast. We will be back next week, and we might hold a special. We'll see. Maybe we'll hop back on Friday for like 15 minutes. Let's see what the market does, right? If I see something important, I feel strongly about something, we'll hop back on. We'll talk about it. But I think today was a good exercise, maybe how to outline some sort of a short game plan. Always be ready, right? Like I said, what's today's lesson? Market's going to do what the market's going to do, right? We're just along for that ride, right? So respect the market, take what it gives you, and be happy. Live to fight another day, right? So this market starts rolling, right? We outline these levels in the S&P 500, right? We're no longer in get money mode. We're in keep money mode, right? So stay safe out there. Thank you guys all for joining me. Happy Tuesday.